Welcome back, Dead Ball Dancing. This is, believe it or not, episode 6, which not only means that we have done this for 5 too many episodes, but also college basketball season is 6 weeks in. That's crazy to me, Justin.
Gone by good weeks. We've had bad weeks. Versus the feast week that we have, we don't think anything will stop to it. I might have other issues. Sorry. Jeez. Okay.
We had a great monologue planned, but really what it comes down to, guys, is don't buy Apple products.
Yeah, seriously. How about now? All good now?
Got you. Perfect now.
Geez. Yeah, no, all I was saying was that last week felt like a letdown compared to the feast week that we had before, right? Like nothing's going to stack up the rest of the season to that. But nonetheless, we got some good movement in the top 25 here. I'm excited to get into it with you.
Yeah, top 25 on your screen now. Again, this is the Dead Ball Dancing top 25. This is an aggregate of our rankings, a little bit of Ken Palm, a really small bit of AP poll. You see all the stars on the board. There are some new teams in our rankings. Kind of crazy how much it shook out this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this actually set the record for most new teams in a week. I think we had 4 or 5 a couple of weeks back. And what this is, math is, I need Excel to do math, 7. So,
7.
That's, yeah, thank you. I needed Excel, like I said. But I'm excited to get into it, man. Like, I don't know, like some of the performances have been confusing to me. Like I have Kentucky in my top 25. I'm happy that they dropped a spot here, but they confused the hell out of me, dude. So I'm gonna start at Kentucky, and you can keep me honest, okay? So Kentucky beat Duke by 5 points. Phenomenal win. You can't argue with that. Great win, right? Then they barely get by Western Kentucky, lose to Clemson, and then beat Gonzaga. And it's like, so you dive into it, right? And here I go on my spiel, because I know that you love my statistical spiels, right? They are shooting 60% from inside the 3-point line. But they're shooting 36 from the 3-point line, and they've taken 256 attempts. So it's like they get into these trouble versus these smaller teams like Clemson. Clemson held it to 26% from 3. And when you start jacking up threes and you get away from your game plan, you're going to be prone to some of these big losses like they were, against Clemson, or barely skating by Western Kentucky. And, you kind of dive into a few of their averages, right? And they're averaging 19 assists a game to only 10 turnovers. But versus Clemson, they turned it over 12 times versus 10 assists. So it's like they start playing against these defensive like masterpieces, like a Clemson or even a Gonzaga, right? And it kind of their inefficiencies and their lack of consistency kind of shows. And last piece before I end my monologue in Kentucky is I am very concerned about them on the boards. Let me read you a few stats. Versus Duke, they allowed 11 offensive rebounds. Western Kentucky, 12 offensive rebounds. Clemson, they let up 16 offensive rebounds. And no matter who you have offensively, no matter who you have defensively, if you let up that many second chances, you're going to be prone to some big, big losses. And unless they fix that, I don't see them staying in this top 25 very long.
And I'm glad you started with Kentucky, because my theme for the day is kind of like shitty blue bloods, quite frankly. Yep. I'll jump football for about 8 seconds, but we have all these Alabama people complaining about why is Alabama not in the playoff. Right. Well, this Alabama team sucked.
Lost.
And Kentucky and Duke and Kansas and Gonzaga suck. Like, if you're not winning games, like, we're past the point now. There's enough people interested in basketball. There's enough non-AP poll people who are doing shows like ours where your name is not good enough, especially if you come out and you play like shit. If you're Kansas or you're Duke or you're Kentucky, you have all the recruiting in the world. And sure, it might be a culture problem because not a single player on your team wants to go to school. They don't want to go to college, but they're not from Europe. So they have to go play 1 year at school in order to go to the NBA. It's just the way it is. Now, whether or not that's right is a conversation we could have in a different secret third segment sometime down the road, but it's the reality. And when your team sucks and you are on the edge of being an NBA player or not, what are you going to do? You're going to chuck up threes because there's not a faster way to get points together.
Correct.
But when the whole team is built around these freshman players some of whom maybe shouldn't be in the NBA, and they're all chucking threes as soon as there's a little bit of adversity. This is what's going to happen, and we're seeing it this year. These Blue Bloods are sliding, and they're sliding bad.
Yeah, and quick too, consistently, like every single one of them. It's like, and I don't know, I know the game is moving more towards a perimeter style offense, which I understand. I mean, shit, Rick, that's how I played in college, dude. Like I was a 3-point shooter. But for me, like it looks like the Blue Bloods don't want it. Like it feels like there's just lackluster effort across the board, with the exception of a Tennessee, with the exception of an Auburn, with the exception of an incredible Iowa State, right? Where the three teams that you see at 1, 2, 3 slot right now exhibit effort on both sides of the ball like it's their last time stepping on the court. And that's what's missing for the remainder of the Blue Bloods, in my opinion. So I'm really happy.
My issue is that they're not being held accountable, right? You can suck. You can be a college basketball team and suck. It happens.
Yeah.
You might be able to argue it happens to, every team but one every single year. But does Duke look like number 4? Does Kentucky look like number 5? Does Gonzaga look like number 8? Those are AP poll rankings. It's horseshit.
Yeah.
These teams are riding on the pedigree of the last 5, 10, 15 seasons. And I understand why the AP poll, which is supposed to be representative of the public, would do that. But I look at our rankings and I look at the AP poll and something doesn't jive. And I think the thing that doesn't jive is that we're watching basketball games and the AP voters do not.
Right. Agreed fully. And I don't know, for me, like, I'm going to move on here in a second, but like, why is UConn back in there? Like, I didn't put them in my top 25. Maybe they're in KenPom, maybe they're in the AP, but like I said, after they lost 3 straight, they're not getting back in my top 25. So it's like, did they deserve that slot more than Maryland? Did they deserve that slot more than Wisconsin? Like, probably not, right? But because they're UConn and they have back-to-back titles, the AP journalists just have to throw them in there. It's incredibly frustrating. I share your frustrations, man. It doesn't make sense to me.
The other thing for me out the top 25 is just kind of these stacks. I will right now, I'll come clean. I had an oopsie with the Texas Tech narrative. I was wrong. They rewarded my faith by proving me immediately wrong, which I didn't appreciate. It could have gone a couple weeks. But now I'm looking at Texas Tech, and Texas A&M, and man, they look similar to me. And I'm looking at the pedigree and the resume. I'm looking at what they've done this year, and I ranked them back to back toward the end. They're all inside my top 20, but kind of just sitting out there all together, because when I look at these teams, if I squint, it's really hard to tell them apart. They play very similar styles. They lose in similar ways. So for me, I had 2 runs in my top 25. It was the Texas teams, and then it's the Big Ten teams. There's Michigan, Michigan State, and Maryland and Wisconsin from 26 to 29. Because they're all about the same. One of them's the top 25 team for me. Yeah. But I couldn't tell you which one, so I didn't rank any of them there. And same with the Texas team. One of them is number 15 team in the country. Right. But I couldn't tell you which one of these teams is gonna show out, and they're all gonna play each other. So it's coming. We'll find out. But there seems to be these chunks in my rankings that I can't get away from. And we don't have a whole lot of data yet. But I mean, we're coming up on 10, 12 games in the season. So soon I think the cream is gonna rise to the top, and I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, and I like that. I looked at your rankings too. I really like that you actually have them stacked. Honestly, I think if I had a choice, I would choose your Maryland, Wisconsin grouping over the Texas grouping right now, just because they look a little crisper, and I feel like there's some better wins there. But like you said, I mean, they're all going to play each other, and we're going to see more in the weeks to come. And I'm not going to let you call yourself out without calling myself out, and I'm not saying in a good way, because I literally called Iowa State game perfectly. But BYU made me look like a complete jackass. Last week, I don't know if you remember, but I said historically they've been a really good shooting team, but this year they really have struggled. Right? Versus Providence. Hold on to your seat for this one, Rick. They attempted 27 more shots. So 69 field goal attempts to 42 field goal attempts for Providence. They made 2 less. You're not going to win basketball games, and especially in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, they're in the 12 now. My apologies. The Big 12 that they're in now, where teams are performing pretty well. Arizona State looks pretty decent, and you got Iowa State and then Baylor. It worries me that you shot so bad that despite grabbing 21 offensive rebounds and only committing 5 turnovers, you still lost by 20 points. Like that to me is very alarming. And the issue also arises with, okay, so they're not playing well offensively. Normally they have their defense to fall back on. They allowed Providence to shoot 60% from the field, 55% from 3, and 80% from the line on 26 attempts. So they weren't even defending without fouling. Like Providence was getting to the interior. They were playing strong around the rim, and made BYU kind of look like an amateur team. So I was a bit disappointed in BYU, and another loss like this, and they're gone. They're not going to make it back in because the Big 12 is too stacked.
Well, and it was interesting going through our rankings because there's all this color up on your screen. And there's one thing that just didn't change at all. BYU just sitting at 20. A little bit as Ken Palm and a little bit is that you and me kind of balancing out BYU. But like I'm building the graphic and I'm like, what the hell? I had to go back and check and make sure it was right. But yeah. BYU just not moving. And I think that's fair because whether they should be ranked or not, they were last week, and I don't think they did anything to change that. I think it's appropriate they didn't move up or down. They did what they needed to do and showed up, and I guess that's kind of who BYU is for me right now. They show up. So until that changes, they're probably going to sit at the same spot in my rankings. I'm mostly doing it for Mike at this point. Someone's got to keep him interested in the season.
Who is tuning in? So, Mike, I'm just telling you right now, one more loss like this and they're gone, buddy. They're gone. And it's confusing to me, right? Because I don't know where they're at in the Ken Palm rankings, BYU specifically. But they feel like a better team that they depicted those far this year. And I'm just waiting for them to flip that switch.
Yeah,
so
not top 30. I can look it up if you really want me to, but they're not top 30.
And the only other movement that I had is I actually gave Creighton a second chance. I'm not happy about it, but when you beat Kansas like you beat Kansas, I have to give you a little bit of respect. That was a defensive masterclass, Rick. They only fouled 7 times the entire game and out-rebounded Kansas 44-31. They shot like garbage from 3. They still took way too many threes. 55% of their shots were threes and only shot 40%. So they're not fixing that side of the ball. But if they play like they played defensively through the rest of the season, they're going to be able to get away with some of these crappier shooting performances, like a 40% from the field, and be able to beat these bigger teams. Now,
No, sorry, I don't know if you watched this game or how good you are on your Kansas geography. This was not a home game for Creighton. This was a Kansas game that they played in Creighton Stadium, which is very nice of them to allow. This was not a hostile environment. Kansas just came out and shit the bed.
Yeah, and they dog walked them. I mean, it was a complete defensive masterclass, and despite the shooting and despite the fact that they committed 15 turnovers, right? If they play like that on that side of the ball, there's not going to be many teams that are better than them, especially with Kalkbrenner at the rim, who's averaging like 3-4 blocks a game. You're not going to be able to score. So I thought that was very impressive. I was impressed with Creighton. They need to clean up the offensive side, but I was impressed.
What else you got? What else you got in the top 25? Anything else you want to call out?
No. So a couple more things. So Iowa State Marquette. I think Marquette kind of fell into the trap that we said they would. 45% of their shot attempts were from 3, and they shot 35%. And they shot just as bad from inside the line, going 16 for 39, so 41%, which just meant that Iowa State outplayed them from top to bottom, right? And I'm not sure if you watched the game. I think, it was our game of the week, so I'm sure you watched it. But Iowa State just looked like a more complete, put-together team. And from offensive side to the defensive side of the ball, they shot 40 or 55%. They had 4 guys in double figures. 3 of them did it on above 60% shooting. And they only committed 14 fouls while generating 12 turnovers. So it's just that's why I'm so high on this team. It seems like their approach is very balanced on both sides of the ball. And I don't know what your thoughts are on the game, but man, they looked good. Iowa State, they really did.
Yeah, that looks sharp. I'll give credit where credit's due. You called it. You hit the nail on the head. If you don't follow our socials or the YouTube, I have given Justin his credit, and I'm ready to be done giving Justin his credit. What I do want to call out, though, is Marquette bouncing back from a game that you knew they would lose. I thought they might win, but honestly, they were overmatched.
Yeah.
They came out and played the Badgers tight in the first half, and then beat their ass in the second half.
Yep.
And that's really what you want to see from your top-ranked teams, right? Like Marquette lost a tough game against the national title contender. And then they came out and they beat one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and they beat them to death in the second half. They smothered them. They played full court and won that game going away. And I think if Marquette can blend playing up against the superior team and beating the crap out of an inferior team, we're going to be talking about Marquette in the Sweet 16. And it's a no-brainer.
Full transparency, I have Marquette at 7. I have Iowa State at 1. Like, I didn't really knock Marquette that much for the loss to Iowa State, just because I knew they were kind of outmatched. The thing that just drives me nuts, Rick, because you're right, defensive side of the ball, there's very few teams that are better than them. There are very few teams that are better than them. They only shot 10 free throws versus Iowa State. Like, I don't want to harp on them too hard on the offensive side of the ball, but you got to get downhill and you got to get some of these better teams into foul trouble and give yourself some opportunity to get to the line, get some easy buckets, right? They didn't do that. And, out of the 10 free throws, they only made 5, right? So it's like you left 5 points on the board there. Who knows what happens if you go 10 for 10? Maybe that changes the dynamic of the game. So I think they're close. They're well coached, right? They got a great home crowd. It just gotta fix that side of the ball. And you're right. I think they're to the Sweet 16.
Teams on notice this week. We've kind of beat mine to death with the Kansas thing. So the one thing I'll say about Duke is look, Duke's winning. Duke's up 3 spots on our rankings. Duke is winning their games, but they don't look great. They don't look great to me. And it's the blue blood thing we talked about, right? So Duke's on notice for me because you're next, right? Kansas is on here too. We don't have to talk anymore about Kansas, but Duke is on my notice because you're next. You need to play better than this. Your recruiting class is elite. You play in a weak-ass conference. Like, show up, win your games, convince me you should be here. Because at some point, going undefeated against cupcake teams is no longer good enough, and it's coming. It's coming real soon. Yeah,
and I like your Duke call. Honestly, I think I'm overvaluing Duke a little bit too much. Full transparency in my rankings, Rick. I have them at 4, and I think that's too high. I think Marquette's better than them. I think Florida's better than them, and I think Alabama's better than them. Now that I'm thinking about it, so I think next week, regardless of what they do this week, I'm gonna try to value them a little bit smarter. But agreed, and they got tough opponents coming up. I don't know who's on their schedule, but they don't tidy up, like they're in trouble.
Well, they get George Mason and Georgia Tech before Virginia Tech comes to town, and then SMU Pitt. And like Ken Palm's got them. Ken Palm's got them at. Sorry, I want to make sure I get this right. 3. The AP polls got them at 4. You have them at 4. So, I mean, you're not the outlier. I have Duke at 22 because they haven't shown me anything. Like, I got Duke, Kansas, and Kentucky at 23 through 25 with Mississippi State sandwiched in between. And just the way I feel about it right now is they are more Mississippi State than they are Gonzaga even. So, sure, they're winning, right? And they're up in our rankings, and they're at the top of the AP poll, and Ken Palm says they're good. So, like, I get it, and I'm willing to be the outlier there. But Duke just hasn't felt good to me. Yeah. And I don't like watching them play basketball.
I mean, I like watching Cooper Flag, but that's really about it, man. I mean, they look lackluster, so I agree. And, it's funny, dude. I'm not making no predictions against George Mason, but George Mason's a tournament team. So, like, if they don't clean their stuff up, like, George Mason will come in there and smack you around. You know they will. So,
can you imagine? Can you imagine losing that game?
Oh, that would be awesome, dude. But I got kind of an interesting one on notice this week. I went with Maryland, and I know you love that I proactively look at strength of schedule, and I know that it's our favorite thing in the world. But I actually also measure a team by the quality of its losses, just like we're measuring Marquette, right? They didn't look great, but they didn't get blown the hell out by Iowa State, right? Maryland only lost to Marquette by 4 and Purdue by 5. And Purdue's not the perennial power that I wish they were, but Marquette's pretty damn good. They're in our top 6, right? So they're playing tough teams well. They beat Ohio State by 30, and Ohio State beat Texas, who was ranked. So that's a good win for Maryland as well, right? My biggest call out is offensively is a bit to be desired, right? They are shooting 60% from 2-point range. 60%, 225 for 383. It's exceptional. But they're shooting 49% overall because they're shooting 34 from 3. And they're just jacking up too many of them. So again, if you're that efficient inside that line, get to the rack, man. Like, you're shooting a good free throw percentage. Like, why wouldn't you lean into what you're good at? Now, but the thing that's very interesting is defensively, this team is disgusting. They are forcing 16 turnovers a game and generating 21 points off. I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing that well on the defensive side of the ball, you are going to beat a lot of teams. There have been 4 games this season thus far, Rick, in which they've forced more than 20 turnovers. 20 turnovers. You should watch one of their games. It's very, very interesting to see. And they're holding opponents to 38% from the field, 29 from 3, and 66 from the line. Ohio State shot less than 40% against them. Purdue and Marquette less than 50% against them. So if they clean up that offensive side of the ball, man, I'm super interested to see what Maryland can do. Have you watched the Maryland game? That's so interesting.
Haven't seen him yet. I try to spare myself watching Big Ten games until absolutely necessary because it reminds me of the bad parts of an NBA game.
Yep.
But it's impossible to argue with the mechanics, right? Like, they're doing what they need to do to win in a league where defense is super valuable, and it doesn't shock me they've looked good. So that'll be my homework for this week. I will watch a Maryland game.
Give them a shot. I want to see. I want to see what you find out. My other one is Gonzaga. I think it kind of speaks for itself, so I'll be short. But I was gonna let the West Virginia loss slide. I was thinking, whatever. Like, someone's gonna lose at some point, right? Purdue lost, and everyone's lost, but then they played like garbage against Indiana, and then they lost to Kentucky. And that Kentucky loss looked like crap because they let them grab 16 offensive rebounds and had 0 defensive pressure, only forced 7 turnovers. And I don't care if I'm biased towards Kentucky or Gonzaga. In fact, I hate both these teams equally. Kentucky should not be out rebounding Gonzaga, not because of their athleticism, not because of their size, just because historically Gonzaga has been a better rebounding team than Kentucky. So, that was a little bit shocking to me. And then you dig into their rotation a little bit, Rick. They only have 5 guys averaging 20 minutes or more a game, and only 7 guys in the rotation. So you're going to start getting into these dog fights where some of your better players are in foul trouble, like they were against Kentucky, like they were against West Virginia. And you're going to have inexperienced guys trying to get into the game. And they're just not going to be ready to play in that big of a game. So, I was a little disappointed in Gonzaga. I don't think they're done losing. They have UConn this week. They got UCLA. They got a sneaky one against Washington State, who's been playing really well this year. And they got St. Mary's twice, and I'm not sure they're beating St. Mary's twice this year, man. Not with how St. Mary's has looked. So Gonzaga's on notice for me.
All right. Game of the week.
Let's do it.
You can pick it on Chainlink. If you're not playing Chainlink, make sure you start. Justin, I went with the orange retro motifs for Tennessee, Illinois on the 14th. This is our number 1 against number 21.
Yep.
At least from my end, I don't have a whole lot to say about Tennessee. For me, this is kind of a make it or break it game for Illinois and large parts of the Big Ten. This Tennessee team is going to go deep in the tournament.
Yep.
And if you want to come out of the Big Ten and have a shot at the dance, you're going to have to go through this team eventually.
Yeah. Yep.
They're shooting 53% from the floor. Illinois is shooting 45%, right? So it's not a massive disparity. But when you look at Tennessee's games and Illinois' games, That's not an equal 53 and 45. That is Illinois shot so poorly against Northwestern.
You're starting to think like me. I'm so happy.
I don't understand exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They shot like dog shit.
Yeah.
And Northwestern, who, perennial powerhouse in Northeastern Illinois. They're one of the best college basketball teams in Northeastern Illinois. If Illinois comes out and plays the way they played against Northwestern, Tennessee is going to win by 50.
Yeah.
They're better everywhere. They're bigger, they're faster, they're deeper, they shoot better, they recruit better. Illinois is not a bad team, but we are now talking about this upper crust of teams against also rans in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So for me, there's only one way Illinois wins this game. You have to get up early. You have to play solid defense in the first 5 to 8 minutes of the game.
Yep.
And you cannot shoot 41% like you did against Northwestern. You have to play fundamentally sound basketball. You have to move the ball around. There's lanes. There's shooting lanes against Tennessee.
There is.
But you have to find them. And if you're not making the additional passes you need to open things up, and you're chucking up a deep 2 deep in the shot clock, you're not going to win. I need you to get up. I need you to stay up. I need you to go into halftime within 3 points. And I need you to Big Ten ball grind them to death.
Yep.
You need to have 2 Tennessee players foul out before 5 minutes are left in this game to have a shot at this. And the only way you're going to do that is by playing hard as hell. And the cupcake fest that they came out with against Northwestern is not going to get it done.
No. I think you put it perfectly. And I think we're leaning the same way. But before I go into my spiel, because I'm going to spend a little bit of time on Tennessee, give them their flowers. Can we give it up for your freaking design right here, man? I mean, this looks so good.
It's cute,
retro balls with Illinois. It's just, God, you killed it, man.
I was showing my mama. I was trying to get the old vintage Illinois logo, where it's the Illini with the Illinois as the headdress.
Yep.
And the dark blue just didn't work against the brick. And I was gonna put like a background on it. I'm like, you know what? No, we're gonna go back to the '90s word mark for Illinois and just roll it out here. This is sick.
Oh, dude, you did a phenomenal job on this. This looks great. Justin's bold prediction of the week. Just like we're gonna do that, just like I did it for Iowa State Marquette. Tennessee is going to win by 24. That's what I'm going to call.
I'm going to put my visual indicator for a hard cut, so I know where to pull your video from, because you best believe it's going up on the shorts.
Oh shoot! I hope I get it right. I'm going to start with Illinois. Positive for them is that they are a very good defensive team. They're limiting opponents to 36% from the field, 25 from 3, and 58 from line. So I don't know if that's home court advantage. Like, defensively, they're pretty solid, right? What do you think I'm going to complain about offensively for them?
Too many white players. There was a lot I think I could say there that would make you break, and that was one of them. So I'm glad it worked.
Good job. God damn it. 3-point attempts make up 53% of their shots, and they're shooting like garbage. If they can continue,
we said the same thing for the record.
Yeah, I know. They're just they're committing more turnovers than they're forcing. So again, sound on-ball shot defending team, but they don't generate additional opportunities on defense, and they certainly don't take care of the ball, because if you're Illinois and you're averaging a -1 turnover margin every single game, that's going to get you in trouble against a Tennessee team that knows how to play defense. And they're allowing an average of 11 offensive rebounds a game. And that's not going to work against Tennessee, who has averaged 12 offensive rebounds a game. So you're turning the ball over, you're letting up offensive rebounds, and you're not shooting well. To me, that screams like a disaster. I think you could get 50 balled by Tennessee really easily. And Tennessee, on the other hand, I'm going to read out their field goal percentage every game this year. It'll take me 2 seconds. Okay. 51%, 57%, 60%, 64%. That one there, 40%, 52%, 48%, and 54%. They shoot the hell out of the ball. And a lot of these 50 and 60% are against Louisville, right? Syracuse, Baylor, Virginia. Like, they can shoot the hell out of the basketball. The one thing that I will say is, despite their 53% from the field, they're only 38 from three. They have one guy that's just shooting the lights out of the ball. I forgot his name. But if they pound it inside and they're able to get to the line where they're shooting 74%, like, this could get ugly very, very quick. They're averaging 18 assists a game to 12 turnovers. So they are taking care of the ball, +6 margins, pretty solid. And defensively, they're forcing 14 turnovers a game, leading to 22 points off turnovers. And against an Illinois team who we know is sloppy with the ball, I don't see them not getting 20+ points off of turnovers, right? So they're pretty complete, man. Like, I would say they're probably the best team in the SEC. I don't think they're better than Iowa State right now, but I'm not. If Tennessee played Iowa State, I'm not sure who would win that game. They are complete. They are very complete, and I think it's going to show against a Illinois team that isn't quite put together yet. And I'm expecting a pretty big win by Tennessee. I don't know what the spread is, but I'm thinking it's going to be huge.
No spread yet because there's games to be played.
Right.
But my model, which dead ass on for the Texas Tech game, by the way. My model has Tennessee by 6.5. Assembly Hall or whatever the shit it's called now. State Farm Center. Stop renaming stadiums. Get out of here.
Please.
It's Assembly Hall. Cool place to play. Really, really cool stadium. The fans come out and do that. But I'm looking at Tennessee here and some recent comps for Illinois, and at least in my opinion, Syracuse, Baylor, Virginia. Beat Virginia by 22. Beat Baylor by 15. Beat Syracuse by 26. So I think your 24 is aggressive. But I don't see how Tennessee loses this, especially if they take themselves seriously.
Right.
So, but I do see a note in our sheet that says if somehow Illinois wins this game, you will give up whiskey for a month.
I will. I'll do it. No spread, no bullshit.
My question is bourbon whiskey?
No.
If bourbon is not whiskey, I take this bet.
All right. You're on.
All right. I have Illinois.
Straight up.
No whiskey for a month.
Wow. And wow. Okay. Deal.
Yep. Done and done.
Done. Love it. It's gonna be on Chain Link, looking super beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be lit up. This is a Saturday night game. There's gonna be a lot going on this weekend, but this one's worth your time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, Tennessee, big time.
All right, we do have a secret third segment this week. If you are a fan of the show, you know that we have trouble sticking to our timeline, so we stop and make ourselves feel better by filming a secret third segment that does not count toward the runtime of this show. We actually got a marathon tonight, so before I tell you about the secret third show, know that in about 30 minutes you can tune in live on the channel, yelling and screaming our NFL show. Ooh, NFL's getting hot. NFL is getting hot.
Yes, it is.
But before that, make sure you mark in your calendar. We will release this video tomorrow night, December 11th. We're going to talk about surprising performances from a football school in a basketball game. And you know some of our fandom, so you might have an idea where this is going to go, or you might not, but you have to watch the secret third segment to find out.
Tune in right when it gets posted. Tune in right away and give us your thoughts. Let us know if we missed a football team that's performing or football school that's performing well. You know, we're up to feedback, but man, what a great segment idea by Rick. And again, drop some more ideas in the chat. You know, we want to please the crowd. So
check Chainlink, link in the bio. If you're not playing Chainlink, it's the best free game on the internet. I don't even think that's up for debate. Yeah. But you can pick the winner of Tennessee, Illinois without risking not being able to drink whiskey for a month. It will be lit up, bright and beautiful Saturday night, but you can pick games on Chainlink every day, all day long. And there's no reason not to.
There's zero reason not to, but just know that if you pick Illinois and when Illinois loses, I will find out who you are and I will throw it in your face. Because
go take your whiskey.
Awesome. Good episode, man. This was a fun one.
Hell yeah. Thank you for joining us on Dead Ball Dancing. We will see you next week for episode 7. We will see you whenever you tune in for a surprise performance from a football school. We'll see you guys real soon. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking forward to the next episode.
Hell yeah. You ready for the awkward lead out? Let's end the stream. Peace.
Peace.